Hey, this is JKPZ28 from 19th Legion and South Mississippi Gamers. I've been asked to do a how-to painting video on my Conquest that I just recently got. I figured it'd be easiest to paint it into using these larger sections instead of putting the whole model together and then trying to paint it. Because of the weight and size, it would probably be cumbersome. So what I did is I assembled the main body, which you can see here, and then each of the arms. I have those finished and all glued, and some of them are even pinned together. Here's the other arm, and then the leg assembly. So what I'm going to do here is, over the course of, it's probably going to be a few days because I'm not painting this all in one day, is shoot some brief videos and updates of what I've done and a quick description of how I'm painting them. This isn't going to be, a 3-hour video watching me sitting here paint. That would be pretty boring. But I'll talk about how I actually go through and paint my models. I don't claim to be any spectacular painter or anything, but I'm decent and I tend to paint fairly quick, so it's at least tabletop quality. Here's a standard bearer I finished up. I still got to finish the basing, but a unit attachment for my winter guard that I'm currently working on. You can see Copnic Joe in the background. I would say one of the keys for painting is to be comfortable when you paint. You can see my foot. What I do is I use this extraordinarily cheap and easy to find lid that goes on top of the big plastic containers you can find at Walmart. It rests comfortably across my lap, and I can actually sit here and watch TV and paint, and it's pretty comfortable. Here in just a little bit, once I get the model primed, we'll start with the first piece I'm going to start painting on. Before I prime them, just a note, when I go to prime, I'm going to blue tape, which is the painter's tape, the connection points so they don't actually get the primer on there, because I've had trouble in the past that when primed, these connection points, once glued, like to come loose, and usually when they come loose, you can see where it actually ripped the primer off the other edge. So I'm going to leave those bare by covering them up with painter's tape, so hopefully they'll adhere to each other. We'll be back in a little while with the very first part of it, which will be the basic basing, base layer of paint after my priming. So see you then. We're back after priming. As you can see, I like to prime in a black. A couple little spots that didn't get primered up too well. Ugh. So I'll touch that up, but no big deal. Here's one of the arms. It's got all of its priming done. Like I said, I try to leave the connection points raw if I can manage not to forget. So what I'm going to do is to base my models, I like to use well, not uniform gray. Oh, here it is. I use Army Painter paint for the most part. I use their gunmetal, which comes out real nice. It's the equivalent of the lead belcher from Games Workshop, and what used to be called, I think, bolt gun back in the day from Games Workshop, but matches up just perfect with it. So what I'm going to do is base one chunk at a time and try to actually see what I can get going here. For basing, I just use a throwaway brush, some crappy brush, just to paint, because I'm painting the entire part in one go. So in a couple minutes we'll come back, and I'm going to start with the leg, since that's the foundation for the model. So I'm going to base coat the legs first, and when we come back, y'all can see how it looks. All right, thanks. The basing for the legs is done. So this is the base layer of lead belcher or gunmetal, as Army Painter calls it. What I'm going to do now is go over and accent a bunch of the areas with this Dwarven bronze. It's this nice kind of metallic orange. So I'll go through and hit some of the little round spots to make them stand out and give it a nice little look. And after I hit some of the spots with orange, I'm going to go ahead and wash it with Nuln oil, which I got some more. This one's almost empty. But I'm going to wash it with the Games Workshop, or should I say Citadel, Nuln oil wash. And with the wash, it'll get down into all the crevices and give it a real good look. It really helps with depth. It gets down and gives it that, where the spots it should have shadow, like up in here, it'll give it off, a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and do that part of this, and when I get that finished, we'll come back and check it out and talk about the next step. We're back after doing the little bit of highlighting with the Dwarven bronze, and then going in and washing it with Nuln oil. So it turned out pretty decent. As you can see, it dulls down the shininess of that Dwarven bronze when you wash over it. What I'm going to do next is go through, and I like to use, for Khador, I'm using Scab Red from Citadel, which is, well, really it's corn red now, since they decided they needed to change all the names. I'll use that and go in and hit a couple spots that I want to be red to go with my, the theme of the Khador army. Probably do these plates right here, a couple plates over here. Just make some spots that stand out a little bit to give it some more depth. After I go in with the red, I'll probably bring a couple areas back up with the bolt gun, or gunmetal, lead belcher for Citadel, whichever one you want to use. I'll go in and bring it back up some darker spots that I want to be a little bit lighter. And then the last thing I'll do is go in with the mithril silver and do a little bit of edge highlighting. It makes it look real good when you do some edge highlighting. It makes the parts stand out. So I'm going to go in and do that. And once I'm done with that, the leg assembly will be done, and I'll attach it to the base, which I'm still working on. I'm doing a snow theme. Got to do something with that arm, paint it up like the Conquest tore it off or something of another jack. But I'll get the base ready and put the legs on it, and we'll have our foundation started. When the wash is drying, I go through and try to base all the other parts, which I still got a good bit of work to do on the body and arms. I hadn't even started this arm yet. So we'll be back, and I should have it on the base and finish painting for the lower half when I come back. Alright, so here are my current progress so far. I've mounted it to the base. I've got the sand on the base mostly white. I'm still not done with it 100%. Did a little Signar type arm there for some rubble. I'm still going to put snow flock on the base and some green shrubbery to kind of go along with how my other models are. This has been washed, painted, highlighted, and kind of trimmed the areas up a little bit on the edges, little edge highlighting. Like I said, it's not some weird pro paint job or anything, but it looks good on tabletop. Next up, you should see the completed model. All I'm going to do is the same thing to the rest of the pieces. I'm going to go in and hit some parts in in red, and go back behind it and highlight it up and get it all assembled. So the next video should be the finished product. Alright, thanks. Alright, so we're back with the final version of the Khador Conquest project that I've been filming for y'all. This is how it's gonna look. There's only one thing I gotta do, and that's finish gluing his legs, his feet to the base. They're still off, so I could move him around from earlier. And like I said from earlier, you can see the edge highlighting that I went through and did on him, and the mithril silver dots for the rivets. And it really helps it jump out and gives it a real nice, mechanical look. One of the major things about putting this model together was, when I painted the model, I did it in giant, the sections, starting with the legs, the body, and then I did each arm. It's really nice to do that, because if you tried if you did put the whole thing together, primed it and painted it as one giant piece, your hands will get fatigued pretty fast trying to hold that entire model up at one time and paint it. It's got some weight since it has both metal and plastic parts on it. It's large. It's a large model, but it was a lot of fun to paint. It turned out fairly well. I would definitely say tabletop quality. I went through and used the aqua color that I have. I believe it's by Folk Art, so it's like a Walmart paint, but it turns out good. To do some of these blue highlights, not highlights, but blue parts, like around his eyes, so they kind of have like a little bit of a glow look. It's kind of hard to see it on the camera. And a lot of the wiring is that aqua blue. I used it to do some of the wiring on the arm on the bottom. But that's it. Took I'd say a solid week of work on it, but it wasn't constant. It was an hour here and there, but it's finally finished up. It'll be really finished once I get the feet glued down, but hopefully this will give some of y'all out there some decent ideas, or if anything, it'll just be fun to watch. But thank y'all for coming to the channel, and we should be back soon with some more painting vids and some how-to vids, and maybe even some product spotlight vids. Thank you.